Hey, everyone. I never thought I'd be here, but life has a way of knocking you down when you least expect it. I need to get this off my chest, and maybe, just maybe, someone out there will understand. My name doesn't matter, but what you need to know is that I used to live a life most people wouldn't believe. Before all this, before I became just another guy working with his hands, I was someone else, someone dangerous. I was deep into hacking, not the petty kind where you steal credit card numbers, but the kind where you bring down entire criminal empires. Drug cartels, corrupt officials, dirty money. If it needed to disappear, I was the guy who made it happen. I made a lot of enemies that way. Eventually, I had to vanish. I created a new identity, changed everything, and built a quiet life for myself. Became a truck driver, a mechanic, an ordinary guy. No one suspected who I really was, not even my wife. Linda. She was my world. Or at least I thought she was. We met at a diner. One of those classic American love stories. She smiled at me, I smiled back, and just like that, I was hooked. She had this way of making me forget my past, making me believe I could be normal. I worked hard, came home every night, kissed her like she was the best thing in my life. Because she was. But then, something changed. It started with the little things. Her phone always face down, late night, work meetings, that distant look in her eyes when she thought I wasn't watching. At first, I told myself I was paranoid, that maybe my past had wired me to see deception where there was none. Then I found the messages. I wasn't even looking for them. She left her laptop open one night while she was in the shower. I walked past, glanced at the screen, and froze. I can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. I miss you already. I felt my stomach drop. The sender? Michael, a guy from her office. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever. My hand shook, not with sadness, but with something colder, sharper, a feeling I hadn't had in years. I copied everything. Emails, messages, photos. I didn't confront her. Not yet, because something didn't add up. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. It wasn't just an affair. It was a setup. Linda and Michael weren't just cheating on me. They were planning something. They were framing me for crimes I didn't commit. And that was a mistake, because they had no idea who they were messing with. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, staring at the screen, reading through every message, every disgusting word they sent to each other. At first, it was all the usual affair nonsense. Linda talking about how boring I was, how she wished she could be with Michael all the time. But the deeper I went, the darker it got. Michael wasn't just some random guy from her office. He was something else, something worse. There were messages about me. Michael, we need to move fast. He's smarter than you think. Linda, I know, but he trusts me. He won't see it coming. Michael, he better not. If this works, we walk away clean, and he takes the fall. Linda, he will. He's too dumb to figure out. Dumb? I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. Linda was framing me for something. But what? I kept reading. That's when I saw the plan. They had been setting me up for months. Small things at first, moving money around in ways that looked suspicious, planting fake documents on my laptop. Linda even mentioned something about getting into my truck's GPS logs, making it look like I had been places I hadn't. And then I found the real bombshell. Michael was involved in something illegal. Smuggling. Fraud. Something big. And they were going to pin it all on me. Linda had access to everything. My truck, my finances, my emails. They were making it look like I was the mastermind. The plan was to set me up, let the authorities take me away, and then run off together with the money. That was it. The whole picture. My wife, the woman I had loved, trusted, and given my whole life to, wasn't just cheating on me. She was throwing me to the wolves. I should have been furious. I should have wanted to break something, to scream, to confront her that very second. But I didn't. Instead, I felt calm. Too calm. Because they thought they were smart. They thought they were in control. They had no idea what I was capable of. I closed the laptop, took a deep breath, and smiled. It was time to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. I didn't say a word to Linda the next morning. I just watched her. She moved around the kitchen like everything was normal, humming to herself, smiling at me, like she wasn't plotting to destroy my life behind my back. I played along. I kissed her on the cheek, told her I'd be home late because of work. Watched her fake that sweet, understanding smile, the same one she probably gave Michael right before jumping into bed with him. But inside, I was already working. I had one advantage over them. They thought I was just a dumb truck driver. They had no idea who I really was. So I got to work. First, I cloned her phone. Simple trick. While she was in the shower, I grabbed her phone for a few minutes, installed a small piece of software that mirrored all her texts, calls, and emails straight to my laptop. Now, every word she sent to Michael, I'd see in real time. Then, I hacked into her work email. Took less than 10 minutes. Weak passwords. Pathetic security. I pulled everything: bank statements, internal memos, private conversations. And what I found, Michael wasn't just cheating with Linda. He was sleeping with 2 other women in the office. Oh, Linda, you thought you were special? You thought he actually loved you? That was almost funny. Almost. By the time I went to work, I had everything. Their plan, their messages, their bank accounts, their secrets. But I wasn't going to stop there. See, they want to frame me, make me the fall guy. I was about to flip the script. I called in sick, parked my truck at a quiet diner, and got to work on my laptop. Step 1. Make Michael the criminal. I used my skills to reroute all the shady transactions Linda and Michael had set up under my name, straight into Michael's accounts. Step 2. Expose the affair publicly. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted spectacle. So, I scheduled an anonymous email blast. By the end of the day, every single person in their office would receive screenshots of Linda and Michael's disgusting conversations. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Step 3. Destroy Michael's life. I had the receipts, the financial fraud, the cheating, the fake transactions. I packaged everything neatly and sent it off to his boss, his family, and the police. By the time I finished, Michael wouldn't just lose his job. He'd lose everything. And as for Linda, oh, I had something special planned for her. Because this wasn't just about revenge. This was war. That evening, I walked into the house like nothing had changed. Linda was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, acting like the devoted wife she pretended to be. "Hey, babe," she said, all sweet and innocent. "How was work?" I smiled. "Same old." "You?" She sighed. "Ugh. Stressful. Michael's been a mess all day." Oh, I bet he had. See, earlier that afternoon, Michael's world started to collapse. The money they funneled into my name, it was now sitting in his personal account, looking like he was the mastermind. His boss had received an anonymous email full of bank fraud evidence linked directly to him. His office? In complete chaos. And the cherry on top? Every single one of their coworkers received a mass email exposing Linda and Michael's affair. I had set the timer on that email perfectly. It dropped at exactly 2 p.m., right in the middle of a company-wide meeting. Phones buzzed. People gasped. Screenshots of their dirty conversations were now the hottest topic in the office. Linda had no idea I was behind it. But Michael? He was scrambling. I checked my clone messages and saw exactly what was happening in real time. "Michael, what the hell is going on? The whole office knows. Someone hacked my accounts." "Linda, what? Are you serious? Who did this?" "Michael, I don't know, but we need to talk. Now." Linda sighed and put down her phone. "Ugh, I might have to go check on Michael later. He's really losing it." I nodded, pretending not to know she was already planning to sneak out. "Perfect." I just smiled and kissed her forehead. "You always know how to fix things, babe." She actually laughed. By the time she left to comfort Michael, I was already setting up the next phase of my plan. See, it wasn't enough to expose them. I needed more. So I followed her, parked down the street from Michael's apartment. Waited. I saw Linda go inside, but she wasn't alone. Michael was already there, pacing back and forth, waving his hands in the air. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. Their body language said it all. Panic, fear, desperation. And then, I hit record. I had hacked into Michael's laptop camera and microphones earlier that day. Now, I was watching their whole conversation in real time, recording every single word. Michael was furious. "Michael, this is bad, Linda. The cops are looking into me now. My boss wants to talk." "Who did this?" "Linda, I don't know. It has to be him." "Michael, you told me he was an idiot." "Linda, he is. There's no way he—" She stopped mid-sentence, her face twisting in horror. She was finally realizing. Maybe I wasn't so dumb after all. Michael sat down, rubbing his face. We need to pin this back on him. Linda nodded. We can still do it. He doesn't know yet. We'll act normal, let things settle. And when the time is right. She made a slicing motion across her neck. I almost laughed. They still thought they were in control. They had no idea that everything they just said was now evidence. I drove back home before Linda did. Sat at the kitchen table, calm as ever. When she walked in, she smiled at me like nothing had happened. I smiled back, because the next step of my plan was going to ruin her life forever. Linda had no clue. She waltzed back into the house, tossed her purse on the counter, and stretched like she'd just had a normal night. Like she hadn't just been sitting in Michael's apartment, plotting my downfall. I sat at the kitchen table, pretending to scroll through my phone. Everything okay? I asked casually. She sighed dramatically. Yeah, just work stress. Michael's dealing with some drama at the office. I almost laughed. That's so. She nodded and came over, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. You're lucky, you know? Having a normal job. No workplace scandals, no backstabbing, no one trying to ruin your life. The audacity. I forced myself to stay calm. I kissed her cheek and played along. Guess I am. She smiled, completely fooled, then went to shower. The moment she disappeared, I pulled out my laptop and checked my live feed of Michael's apartment. And just like I expected, he was losing his mind. Michael was pacing on the phone, yelling at someone. Michael, no, you don't get it. The cops are sniffing around. Someone hacked my accounts. I told you this was risky. Michael, don't lecture me. Just handle it. We have to get rid of anything that ties me to this. I leaned closer to the screen. Michael wasn't just framing me. He had a third person involved. I rewound the audio, cleaned it up, enhanced the background noise. A faint voice. A woman. This wasn't just Linda and Michael. There was someone else. And I needed to find out who. The next morning, Linda was extra sweet. She made breakfast, kissed me longer than usual, and acted like the perfect wife. It was so fake it made me sick. She thought she still had time, that they could still frame me, that I was clueless. So I decided to throw a wrench in her plans. Over breakfast, I casually said, by the way, I got a call from the bank yesterday. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. Yeah, I said, watching her closely. Something weird about my accounts. Money moving around. They said there was a report filed. Her face barely changed, but I caught it, a flicker of panic. Oh, she said, forcing a smile. That's weird. You think it's fraud? I shrugged. Maybe. They said they'll look into it. She nodded, stabbing at her eggs. Hope it's nothing serious. I leaned back in my chair. Me too. Now she was rattled. Good. After she left for work, I put my plan into motion. Step 1. Find out who the third person was. Step 2. Make sure Michael and Linda never saw it coming. Because this wasn't just about catching them. This was about destroying them completely. I needed to know who the third person was. Linda and Michael were already dead in the water. They just didn't know it yet. But whoever was helping them, that was the missing piece. I spent the next few hours digging. Michael was careful, but not careful enough. His work email, his personal accounts, I had access to all of it. And then I found her. Rebecca, Michael's boss. Oh, this just got interesting. Rebecca was a high-level executive at their company. I didn't know her personally, but based on Michael's emails, I pieced it together fast. She was dirty. Bribery, tax fraud, insider trading. Michael was her little puppet, moving illegal money around to keep things clean. And now, they were using me as the scapegoat. It made perfect sense. Michael wasn't smart enough to pull this off alone. Rebecca had the real power. And Linda? She was just the bait, the piece of the puzzle that kept me distracted while they set me up. They were going to frame me, let me take the fall, and then walk away free. Not happening. I needed proof. Michael was already spiraling, but Rebecca? She was a different beast. Smart. Calculated. If I was going to take her down, I had to be careful. So, I hacked into her office security system. Simple trick. Every company has remote login access for IT. A few keystrokes, and suddenly, I had access to every camera feed in the building. And that's when I struck gold. Rebecca and Michael. In her office. Talking about me. I turn up the audio. Rebecca. We have to act fast. If he figures it out, we're screwed. Michael, I don't know. Someone hacked my accounts. This wasn't part of the plan. Rebecca, shut up. We stick to the script. He's the fall guy. The second this investigation starts, we let the authorities discover what we planted on him. Michael. And Linda. Rebecca. She's expendable. I paused. Expendable? Oh, Linda. You thought you were playing me? Turns out, you were just another pawn. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. I saved the footage, encrypted it, and sent copies to multiple locations. If anything happened to me, it was going public. Now, it was time to set the trap. Step 1. Make Rebecca nervous. I hacked her personal emails and sent an anonymous tip to her company's board of directors. Just a taste, small evidence of her financial crimes. Enough to make them suspicious. Enough to make her panic. Step 2. Make Michael crack. I scheduled an anonymous text to be sent to him that night. I know everything. Tick-tock. Step 3. Linda. She was coming home soon, and when she did, I was going to make her break. Linda came home tense. She tried to hide it, but I could see it. The stiffness in her shoulders, the way she kept glancing at her phone like she was waiting for a message that wasn't coming. Long day, I asked, watching her carefully. She forced a smile. Yeah, just office drama. Oh, I bet. Michael was probably losing his mind after getting that anonymous text. And Rebecca? She had just received a tip-off that someone was looking into her financials. I wasn't just exposing them. I was turning them against each other. Linda sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, waiting for Michael to text her, waiting for him to tell her what was happening. But he wasn't going to, because right now, he was panicking. And when people panic, they make mistakes. I opened my laptop, pulled up the live feed of Michael's apartment, and there he was, pacing, chugging whiskey straight from the bottle, freaking out. Then suddenly his phone buzzed. I watched as he read the message. The one I sent him. I know everything. Tick-tock. He staggered back, nearly dropping his drink. Then he did exactly what I wanted him to do. He grabbed his phone, dialed a number, and called Linda. I turned to my wife, who was sitting just a few feet away from me, and watched as her phone started ringing. She hesitated for a second, then stood up and walked into the kitchen to take the call. I followed, silently. She didn't even check if I was nearby. She just answered in a hushed whisper. Michael? What's wrong? I leaned against the doorway, listening. Michael, we're screwed. Someone's messing with us. I got a text. It said they know everything. Linda, what? Who? Michael, I don't know. But it's falling apart. Rebecca's acting weird and... He stopped, lowered his voice. Michael, listen. We need to cut ties. Now. Linda stiffened. What do you mean? Michael sighed heavily. I mean, you're on your own. Her breath hitched. Michael, you promised. I can't save you, Linda, he snapped. You should disappear before this all blows up. Silence. And then, Linda started to panic. She wasn't just losing Michael. She was losing everything. She came back into the living room, looking pale. I acted casual, pretending to scroll through my phone. Something wrong. She swallowed hard. Forced a smile. No, just work stuff. Liar. She was scared. And when people are scared, they make mistakes. So I pushed a little harder. You seem stressed, I said. Something I should know? She shook her head quickly. No, it's fine. Fine. Good. Let her think she could still control this. Because tomorrow, I was going to end it. Linda barely slept that night. I could hear her tossing and turning, checking her phone every few minutes, probably waiting for Michael to call her back. But he wouldn't. He was done with her. And soon, I would be too. The next morning, I set the final stage of my plan. First, I sent another anonymous tip, this time straight to the police. All the evidence I had collected, the fraudulent transactions, the messages, the recorded conversation between Michael and Rebecca. Every piece of dirty money they had funneled, it now pointed straight at them. Linda thought she was framing me. Instead, she had tied herself to a sinking ship. By noon, I saw the first sign that the walls were closing in. Linda got a text. I watched her read it, her face draining of color. What's wrong? I asked, pretending to be concerned. She quickly locked her phone. Nothing. Just work drama. I nodded. Michael again? She flinched. Bingo. That meant Michael had found out about the cops. Good. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee. You should probably distance yourself from him, I said casually. Don't want to get caught up in whatever mess he's in. She forced a laugh. Yeah, of course. But I could see it in her eyes. She was spiraling. An hour later, the real fun started. Michael tried to run. I saw it on my hack security feeds. He was throwing things into a suitcase, grabbing stacks of cash, making a break for it. But guess what? I'd already tipped off the cops about his location. I sat in my truck, watching the live camera feed, as the police stormed into his apartment. He barely had time to react. I heard him screaming, denying everything, cursing as they dragged him out in cuffs. One down. Now it was Linda's turn. She came home late, looking shaken. The first thing she did? Check the news. And there it was. Local man arrested in major fraud and embezzlement case. Michael's name. His mug shot. The whole story. Linda stopped breathing. I just sat there, watching her, letting it sink in. Then I said, "Crazy, huh?" She barely looked at me. Why, yeah. She knew. She knew she was next. And I was going to watch her crumble. Linda was shaking. She kept scrolling through the news article, reading and rereading it like the words would suddenly change. Like it wasn't real. Michael was gone. Arrested. And she had no idea how it happened. I just sat back, watching her world fall apart. She grabbed her phone and bolted to the bedroom, probably to call Michael, but he wasn't answering. Because Michael wasn't coming to save her. No one was. I casually followed and leaned against the doorframe as she stared at her phone, her hands trembling. Something wrong? I asked. She flinched. No, just work stuff. Still lying. Even now, I tilted my head. You sure? You seem stressed. Her throat bobbed. I'm fine. She wasn't fine. She was drowning, and I was about to push her under. I let her stew in her fear for a few hours. Then I made my next move. While she was in the shower, I grabbed her laptop and sent an anonymous email from her account, straight to Rebecca. Michael is gone. We need to talk. Now. Then I sat back and waited. 5 minutes later, Rebecca replied. Not over the phone. Meet me at the office parking lot in 30 minutes. Perfect. I cleared the sent history and put the laptop back exactly how I found it. Then I casually walked into the bathroom. Hey, I'm heading out for a bit, I said over the sound of running water. Linda peeked out, shampoo in her hair. Where? Just grabbing a drink. She nodded distractedly. Okay. She had no idea I was following her. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, she grabbed her purse and left in a hurry. I tailed her from a distance, watching as she pulled into her office parking lot and parked near the back, where fewer cameras were. Rebecca was already there, standing outside her car, arms crossed. I parked out of sight and tapped into my laptop, pulling up my hacked audio feed. Showtime. Rebecca, what the hell happened? Linda, I don't know. Michael got arrested. They found evidence against him. Rebecca, he was supposed to pin everything on your husband. That was the plan. Linda, I don't know what went wrong. He stopped answering my calls. Rebecca, listen to me. If he talks, we're screwed. You understand? Linda swallowed hard. What do we do? Rebecca exhaled sharply. We cut ties. Burn everything. If the cops come asking, we play dumb. Silence. Then Rebecca added, and if your husband starts getting suspicious, make sure he doesn't become a problem. I felt a slow smile creep onto my face. Rebecca had just signed Linda's death sentence. Because now, I had everything I needed to take her down, too. And Linda? She was running out of time. Linda drove home like a ghost. She barely spoke when she walked in. Just nodded at me, went straight to the bedroom, and shut the door. I could hear her pacing. She was trapped. Michael was arrested. Rebecca was cutting ties. And now, she had no one left to protect her. Good. I poured myself a drink, sat at the table, and checked my laptop. I had everything recorded. Their whole conversation. Every word. Time to take down Rebecca. I spent the next hour setting up the final blow. First, I sent another anonymous tip to the police, this time with Rebecca's name all over it. The insider trading, the fraud, and the best part? The audio recording of her telling Linda to cut ties and burn everything. By morning, the authorities would knock on her door. Next, I made sure Linda was backed into a corner. I drafted a fake email from an investigator and scheduled it to send to her in the morning. We need to speak to you immediately regarding your involvement with Michael's financial activities. Failure to comply may result in legal action. The second she read that, she'd break. She'd panic. And when people panic, they destroy themselves. The next morning, she woke up looking like she hadn't slept. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it, opened the fake email. Her hands started shaking. I pretended not to notice. Everything okay? She swallowed hard. Yeah, just work stuff. Still lying. Even now. But she wasn't fooling me. She was falling apart. And then, right on cue, the news broke. Corporate executive under investigation for financial fraud. Authorities seize company assets. Rebecca was done. Linda gasped when she saw it. She grabbed her phone, trying to call someone, probably Rebecca. But no one answered. Because Rebecca? She was already being investigated. Linda was alone. I just sipped my coffee, watching her realize it. And then, she did exactly what I expected her to do. She grabbed her purse and ran. Perfect. It was time to finish this. Linda ran. She barely even looked at me before grabbing her keys and bolting out the door. I didn't stop her. I already knew where she was going. I pulled up my laptop and tapped in my tracking system, her car's GPS. Destination, Michael's apartment. I almost laughed. She still thought he could help her. But Michael? He wasn't answering calls anymore. He was probably sitting in a tiny cell, realizing he'd been played like a fool. And Linda? She was next. I followed her, kept my distance, watched as she pulled up to Michael's place, only to find cops swarming the building. She froze in her car, gripping the steering like she could will this all away. Then she did something interesting. Instead of driving off, she grabbed her phone and called someone. Rebecca. I quickly hacked into the audio. Linda. Rebecca. What the hell is going on? Rebecca. We have a problem. Linda. No kidding. The cops are all over Michael's place. Rebecca. Listen to me carefully. Wipe everything. Every email. Every message. Delete it all. And for God's sake, stay away from your husband. I paused. Oh, Rebecca. That was a mistake. Because now, I had you on record telling Linda to destroy evidence. I saved the file. Another nail in her coffin. Linda sat in her car for a long time, gripping her phone, probably realizing she had nowhere left to run. And then, just as I predicted, she drove home. Right back to me. She walked in, looking pale. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Back already? She forced a weak smile. Yeah, I just needed some air. Liar. I could see it in her eyes. She was terrified. Good. I decided to push her a little more. Hey, I got this weird email this morning. I pulled out my phone and showed her the fake investigator email I sent. She froze. Her hands clenched into fists. What did it say? Said they need to talk to me about some financial investigation, I said slowly. Seemed serious. Her breathing got shaky. W, what are you going to do? I shrugged. I guess I'll meet with them. See what they know. That's when she broke. She grabbed my arm, panicking. No, you can't talk to them. I raised an eyebrow. Why not? She swallowed hard, trying to think of a lie. But there was nothing left. She was trapped. And the best part? She still had no idea I was the one pulling the strings. Linda's grip on my arm tightened. Her breathing was uneven, her eyes darting everywhere except at me. She was cornered. Why can't I talk to them, Linda? I asked again, keeping my voice calm. She opened her mouth, closed it, swallowed hard. It's just you don't want to get involved. What if Michael tries to pin something on you? I tilted my head. Michael? He's in jail. She flinched. She knew that. She was just grasping at anything now. You seem nervous, I said, taking a step back. What? She forced a laugh. I'm not. It's just, this whole thing is crazy. Maybe we should. Then, before she could finish that thought, her phone buzzed. She practically jumped. I watched as she slowly pulled it out, read the screen, and went completely still. Rebecca, they're coming for me. You're on your own. Oh, Linda, you should have chosen better allies. She slowly put the phone down, her fingers trembling. I took a sip of my coffee, acting casual. Bad news. She blinked fast, shaking her head. No, just work stuff. Still lying. Even now, I nodded. You sure? You look like you just saw a ghost. She forced a smile. I'm fine. Then she grabbed her purse and rushed toward the door. Where are you going? I asked. She hesitated. I need some air. She was running. Good. because I was leading her straight into the final trap. I followed her. She drove erratically, constantly checking her mirrors, paranoid. She knew something was wrong. She just didn't know how deep in the hole she really was. Finally, she pulled into a parking lot. A bank. I parked far enough away that she wouldn't notice me. Watched as she ran inside. Then, using my laptop, I tapped into the bank security feed. Linda was withdrawing everything. She was trying to disappear. I almost laughed. It was too late for that. She took out as much cash as she could, stuffed it in her purse, and practically ran back to her car. But before she could drive off, the police pulled up, lights flashing, sirens blaring. She barely had time to react before they surrounded her car. And me? I just sat back and watched as she was dragged out, handcuffed, and shoved into the back of a police car. It was over. Linda was finished. Linda screamed as the cops grabbed her. "I didn't do anything," she cried, struggling against the cuffs. People in the parking lot stared. Some pulled out their phones, recording as she was shoved into the back of the police car. Her perfect little life, gone. I watched from a distance, hidden in my truck. She had no idea I was there. No idea I was the reason this was happening. And that made it so much better. I checked my laptop. The final piece of my plan was already in motion. All of Rebecca's crimes? The police had them now. Her emails, her phone calls, her money transfers, every dirty secret. Linda thought Rebecca would protect her. Instead, Rebecca had already started talking, selling Linda out to save herself. By tonight, Linda would know exactly who betrayed who. And I'd be right here, watching it all fall apart. Linda sat in the back of the police car, stunned. She wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't screaming. She was just silent. Reality had finally hit her. She had lost. I watched as they drove her away, disappearing down the road. Then, I checked my phone. A news alert popped up. Corporate scandal unfolds. Key suspect Rebecca Carter in custody. Cooperation confirmed. Rebecca talked. She cut a deal. Linda? She was completely alone now. I took one last look at the empty parking lot. Then I got in my truck, started the engine, and drove off. I was done here. The revenge? Complete. A week later, I sat in a diner, drinking coffee, watching the news on a small TV in the corner. Linda Carter, former employee of Weston Financial, is now facing multiple charges of fraud and conspiracy. Her alleged accomplices, Michael Ray and Rebecca Carter, remain in custody. Sources confirm Rebecca has agreed to cooperate with authorities. Linda's mugshot flashed on the screen. Her face was blank, empty. She knew she was done. I took a slow sip of my coffee, feeling nothing. No guilt, no regret, just satisfaction. She thought she could betray me, frame me, destroy me. Instead, I watched her entire world burn to the ground. And me? I was free. I paid for my coffee, left a tip, and walked out of the diner without looking back. Some people say revenge isn't worth it. But trust me, this one was.